Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers, and allow me to be the first or one of the first to wish you a happy new year. It is the January 1st, 2020, the beginning of a new era, a new decade. So I hope this is a monumental and fabulous, wonderful year for you, and is able to, on this day of rest, to use some times to just be at ease, be at peace, and look forward for really what you want to envision for yourself moving forward, especially as it comes to sort of breaking through perhaps some of the old emotional patterns that aren't serving you. So let's zoom in and focus in on really what it means. As this is also coming from a great viewer question, is how do you resist the no contact or the hover? How do you keep yourself on track to being and optimizing yourself and not going backwards? So I think that's a great viewer question for today. And we're going to sort of launch into the video here with that question. So once again, when we're talking about making positive change, especially when it comes to human relationships, it's important to understand that if there is an issue of pain, there was a situation where this person basically, was allowed to get into your mind and sort of exploit a weakness. A weakness meaning where you did not feel personal strength. You did not feel independence. You did not feel sort of sure-footedness. And someone who is manipulative or is trying to sort of pull one over on you, meaning that they're deceptive, they're not forthright, they have ulterior motives, they have another agenda, they're doing things behind your back. They are, pathologically lying or manipulating or sort of being in that viewpoint where they're not giving you the full Monty, the full deal, and they've presented a relationship which has caused you a lot of grief and pain and sort of long lasting pain. And how do you resist sort of that backsliding? How do you stop the drifting? How do you stop sort of the, ruminating thoughts or living in the past? This is a huge question, and I think there are some really key fundamental components and aspects that you can understand to move forward, that will help you and to catch yourself. Number one is to understand that the mind will drift when you begin to absorb the negative. And whether it's negative news, negative gossip, negative talk, sort of joining the bandwagon of judgment, there becomes a situation where you can be open to that sort of onslaught of negativity. There's so much wrong with this. There's so much wrong with that. This is going on here. This is going on there. You can flood your senses with the negative, and then it begins to subconsciously bring you down and weight you down. And it can begin to feel like a negative anchor keeping you stuck. So it's important to realize that there are certain situations when the negative will begin to seep in and your mind will drift. Your mind will then be suggestive and open and vulnerable to the negative suggestion. So oftentimes, because of this unmet need or something that you were not able to identify coming in and put an end to, a stop to say no thank you, that the negative has taken hold, it has taken roost, it sets up a negative feeling pattern, therefore a negative thought pattern. So really, it's the feelings that then precipitate the thoughts. So if I can just give you some answers, which I strive to do here on the channel, to give you some shortcuts, some emotional apps, if you will, to sort of, jump into the answer, is to understand that in your experience with relationships, that there are going to be moments when you are receiving an onslaught of negativity. And it can be either deep and incisive, or it can be superficial negativity, which then chronically over time begins to weigh you down and wear you out, leaving you vulnerable and less apt to identify and then make corrective action. This is basically when the non-productive, the evil, the manipulative relationships take their hold and get a hold, and perhaps can set you in a whole whirlwind of negative relationships, negative sequence of relationships, and feeling patterns, and then ensuing thought patterns. So the feeling, the physiology, then precipitates the thought patterns. Does that make sense? So if you can identify a little bit more intensely your feeling patterns that have then precipitated and opened you up and made fertile ground for the negative rather than the positive, it's important that you can then identify those as real quick fix points for yourself moving forward. And therefore, you will not be then tempted by the negative once you're able to identify it and organize it as such. I call that the nod thinking. It's taking you in the wrong direction from your potential and your happiness and really sort of lightness of being. There becomes a lot of fog and lack of clarity in relationships with people who are sort of the overwhelming, the people who are, trying to claim authority or superiority over you. You have to be very careful to identify that. And no matter where the relationships have emerged from, it does not matter. What matters is how you feel. And I really do feel that this new year, with all its predictions and all the things that are going on, it's really going to be the year of purpose. It's going to be the year of newfound feelings, particularly that surround that of judgment. And those things that you had allowed yourself to feel less than are no longer going to become in that jockeyed position of underneath. And whether it's a past relationship, whether it's a current relationship or a future relationship, that now that you're doing the work and we're really moving forward into a new decade, it really sets a clear-cut vision moving forward for you to identify in your experiences when you are then subject to a lot of judgment. A lot of viewers feel, am I narcissistic? Is, my recovery going to make me a narcissist? If that's why I backslide. I'm afraid of, that I won't be able to become strong and secure and be able to fend this off. They don't have a sense of confidence or sure-footedness. So if that is the case, and you feel that you might regress, you might go back, realize that you are not an energetic match towards that negativity. That's why you're having this, you're sort of on the fence. So unless you have a definiteness of purpose and a definiteness of decisiveness, then that negativity is always going to seep in. Meaning, if you're not sure, if you're not certain, if you haven't, really made that decisive, if you're still waffling, if you're still sort of on that back and forth, you're still weighing it out, then you are still going to be open to that lapse of judgment, that going backward rather than going forward. You're going to, err on harsh judgment either on yourself or others, and it's going to keep you open to sort of that uncertainty. And that can then cause a lot of your psychic energy to be caught up in that middle ground where you're just sort of on the stalemate, you're on the crossroads. You're like, am I doing this or am I doing that? And of course there's always going to be decision making that you need to do, but when we talk about really your security, within, and your definiteness and your conviction, as I've said, you need to have conviction. You need to declare and be firm and resolute in your decision. It has to be a now I have had enough. You have to have that declarative feeling state within. And so this is the feeling state. As 2020 is a new decade, it is also going to be a new year of what we see sort of, coming about globally, as well as in your own community, where, things that were hitherto sort of, not resolved, things are really going to pick up and look to be resolved, whether it's in a political, in a global, all that, sort of is going to need to come to an understanding, where, we're not going back, we're going forward. We're making peace, we're making amends, we're at that crossroads where we can do the right thing and, have civil talks and having confidence and not the negative, not erring on the negative, the destruction, the the problematic judgment, and that causes people to go backwards. And whether you look at it in a microcosmic, cosmic basis, meaning your own world, or even globally, there's going to be a lot of these changes. And be very careful though, because the negative will seep in if you're seeing these sort of high emotional information and news and things that you're reading. So if you're really taking in a lot of crisis, that's when you can, really tip the scales to the negative. So be very careful that you look and keep a definiteness and a resolute and a declarative stance about yourself, and noticing your physicality. Are you standing strong? Are you breathing deep? Are you able to be focused and centered? Are you still on the fence about some things? If so, get off the fence. Get off that middle ground where you're sort of teetering and tottering, and know those areas of life for yourself, so that as I call it, sort of like emotional forecasting, that when this and this comes up, I am not going to, and so, and knowing what that looks like and feels like for you, when you're presented with the temptation, when you're presented with the judgment, when you're, presented with the opportunity to regress. Think of those situations right now where you don't have the conviction, you don't have the resolution, you don't have the resolute, you're still unsure of yourself. Let's make this the year of becoming more resolute and more sure of self, and letting go of the fear that I don't have what it takes, I can't make the change, I won't get support, all that negative thinking. That's, when the mind will dwell, and, those negative feelings can enter without your awareness or without your acknowledgement. So you need to become a little bit more sensitive and aware when those situations occur for you. So for some people, it might be in the morning, it might be at the end of the day, it might be while they're watching the news, it might be while they're on their Facebook. Find those moments when you're on the fence, you're not at 100%, and just jog yourself back into declaration. I am decisive. I have confidence. I am certain. I am sure of this. And give that to yourself, even if you've never sort of owned it in that strength. Begin to increase your strength and and back yourself up on that, and allow yourself to feel that strength and that letting go, and knowing that when those situations present themselves, I will, rather than I, and being certain. So once again, it's developing that ability to have that vision for yourself, that mission statement, if you will, and that emotional forecasting. So knowing when you're tempted, knowing so you have to sort of be outside of the temptation in order to think about it and understand how you would ideally like to behave, think, feel, and do, so that when those situations come up, just, here it is. Here's that junction. I'm not going to wimp out. I am, I have conviction. I have definiteness of purpose. I am confident. I am sure. And knowing your feelings and then being able to back them up, meaning strengthening your resolve. And not to the point where you're rigid, unflexible, feeling pressured, uncomfortable. It is a gradual process. And so also let's make this the year that where you can really sort of emerge through and have fluidity in this regard. Fluidity in purpose, fluidity in decisiveness, fluidity in confidence, fluidity in your communication. And so knowing when those moments come back to regress or backslide or, the hover. So knowing that how do you handle it with grace rather than, being bent out of shape? What does it look like? What are you certain that you want to do, feel, be, and have? What are you certain of? And don't make it so unrealistic that you can't meet your goals, because you can always increase your goals. But so knowing when these situations come up, I won't, feed the fire. I won't email back. I won't overeat the rich foods. I won't over-obligate myself. I won't give away my power. I will take back my power. I will eat healthfully. I will be strong in my conviction. I will be resolute in my decisions. I know what I feel, and I no longer doubt myself. And I am okay being equal to others. I'm okay in my personal strength. I'm okay knowing that people have all sorts of different strengths, and I'm okay with embracing mine. You might be a great mother, a great father, a great man, a great woman, a great cook, a great nurturer, a great listener, a great guide, a great problem solver. All these are qualities that are your purpose. So as this is the year of purpose, acknowledge and validate and have a declaration, I am, and so when those moments come up, begin to have that little bit of emotional forecasting, that rather than, catching yourself so that you have the choice, especially if, here comes the negativity, rather than dwelling, rather than drifting, rather than allowing it to take hold, and then, your year has gone by, begin to say, yep, this is when that happens, and I'm going to gracefully move in the direction of my happiness, and I'm going to get it moving. I'm going to get it going. I'm going to go a little bit in that direction, and I'm going to go gently, but I'm going to go with conviction. And begin to get a little bit more flexibility and nuance with yourself, especially when it comes to, shoot, I wish I didn't do that. Catching yourself, I wish I participated more in, I wish I did this. I wish I looked for here. I wish I got up earlier. I wish I caught that movie, that, all those things, so then go ahead and just do it, follow through. And so I will leave you with that for now, and we're going to have more videos throughout the day to welcome in 2020. Happy New Year. My tiara is poking up there. So let's bring it on with definiteness of purpose and definiteness of emotional decisiveness, meaning I know for sure what my right path is, and and knowing for sure where the problem is. And so when those, where the problematics, and so when they come up, you're able to make a decision. You still might, battle it in your mind for a little bit, but it won't be for the hours, the days, the weeks, and then cause you to weaken in those moments when the temptation presents itself. Because you'll know that the outcome, the result of going backwards is not what you want. Even if it's just staying where you are, that is better than going backwards. So sometimes even just remaining and maintaining is better than, making the wrong action and wrong decision and setting you into that emotional quicksand. So I will leave you with that message, and I hope you can resonate with that so it can help you moving forward. And we're going to talk a lot more about the recovery journal, the recovery date, the recovery gift, the emotements, the affirmations, the tools that I discuss to plug into. So you have a system, you have a know-how, you have a template. You're plugging in and you're just plug and play. This is meant to be easier for you and not more difficult. And once again, so I received also a lot of feedback about the new memberships available here on the Peace and Harmony channel, and that people for some reason are not able to locate the join tab, the membership tab. It is on the home page here on the Peace and Harmony channel, and I'm not sure if you have an Apple device if it isn't showing up, or an iPad, or an Android, or a Google Chrome, or whatever it is you're using. But if you cannot find, please let me know, because I've checked out with YouTube, who is helping to host this, that everything is a go and live for us. So check it out. We're getting the lay of the land. We're going to get into more specifics today. So I wish you a very happy holiday. Let's do this. Let's stay on track and keep accountable so you can hit those new milestones for yourself that you envision. And let's get that envisioning factor for yourself so you're empowered. So you've got that self-reliance. You've got that sort of independence. It allows you then to be interdependent with others versus sort of going into the back and forth. I'm not sure what I think. All those sort of trepidations that can take a lot of your emotional, psychic energy and keep you sort of in a stalemate position. So please continue with your inquiries and your comments and your support. It's your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today, and I'm hoping that our discussions do help. Please join the new Peace and Harmony membership to maximize your information and your application. Have a beautiful day and a happy New Year 2020.